Welcome back. It is time to rock our week 13 picks. We got the Friday slate, the Saturday slate. We've already recapped last week in our last video. We're starting off strong so far here in week 13, and it is time to keep it going. And we're starting on Friday night. Friday night, we've got Temple and UTSA. Both teams coming to this game struggling heavily on defense. Still, there is a major difference between the two offensive units. UTSA is 43rd in the nation in points per game, while sitting 18th in yards per game. Temple's 115th in the nation in points per game, 122 in yards per game. Temple 5-5 against the spread this year. They're 3-5 as an underdog. UTSA is just 4-6 against the spread this year, but they've covered in 3 of their last 4. They're also 4-1 against the spread at home this year. UTSA is the better team. UTSA minus 15.5, minus 110 on Bet Rivers. We move to Saturday. One of the biggest games on the slate. We got Indiana and Ohio State. Indiana comes in the game not only 10-0, but 8-2 against the spread. They failed to cover in the first game of the year by just half a point. They also failed to cover last week against Michigan. Meanwhile, Ohio State's 5-5 against the spread, failed to cover last time out as well. Indiana, slightly better than Ohio State this year in turnover margin. They do a better job at taking away the ball. Indiana is also a little bit better in the kicking game. I like Indiana to keep it close. Indiana plus 11.5, minus 114 on FanDuel. We move to UTEP and Tennessee. UTEP's 4-6 against the spread this year, but they've covered in 3 of the last 4 games overall. Still, Tennessee 5-5 against the spread this year, but has covered just once in their last 6 games. Tennessee may not cover in this one, but it'll not be because UTEP's scoring a ton. UTEP sits 119th in the nation in points per game. They're facing one of the best defensive units in the nation in Tennessee. The unders hit in 5 of the last 7 games for Tennessee. The unders also hit in 2 of the last 3 for UTEP. Unless Tennessee covers it by themselves, this one should hit the under as well. Under 54.5, minus 115 on Caesars. Moving to Penn State and Minnesota. Minnesota's 5-5 against the spread this year. Penn State's 5-5 against the spread this year, while they've covered 3 in their last 4 games. Further, Penn State's covered in 3 or 4 games on the road this year. Minnesota 7-3 against the spread, but lost last time out as a 6.5 point favorite. Still, they're just 2-2 when underdogs this year. Minnesota's going to have trouble scoring against Penn State's defense in this one. Similar to last week against Rutgers, we're going to take Penn State to cover. Penn State minus 11, minus 110 on Hard Rock. Moving to Wisconsin and Nebraska. Wisconsin just 4-6 against the spread this year, but they have covered in 4 of their last 6. That includes last week covering against Oregon. Nebraska 5-5 against the spread, but they've only covered once in their last 5 games. Further, they have lost outright in each of their last 3 games when they were a home favorite. All 3 of them are in conference play. The 2 teams are evenly matched. Still, Wisconsin's slightly better in both offensive points per game and in opponent points per game this year. Wisconsin, been solid on the road. They're going to get the win. Wisconsin money line, plus 107, Bally Bet. Moving to BYU and Arizona State. BYU just suffered their first loss of the year. They have a below average offense overall and rely on turnovers to get into wins. Arizona has turned over the ball a whole 7 times this year. Further, they are 5-0 at home. Yes, Arizona is bad at kicking, but with Bo Scatterbo back, I'm not sure anyone on BYU is going to slow them down. I was high on Arizona State in the preseason, got made fun of. Who's laughing now? Arizona, minus 3, minus 110 on Caesars. We got an ACC battle in California. Yes, the Atlantic Coast Conference Battle of California. It's Stanford and Cal. Stanford just covered once in the last 10 games, 3 times in the last 10 games. They've covered 2 of the first 3, and then they covered for the first time last week against Louisville. Meanwhile, Cal's 6-4 against the spread this year. They're 3-3 as a favorite. Further, they've not failed to cover in back-to-back games this year. They missed last week. If that trend continues, this is good. Stanford's 110th in points per game this year, while facing a quality defense in Cal in this one. They're going to struggle to score. Give me Cal minus 13.5, minus 120 on FanDuel. Moving to Texas Tech and Oklahoma State, man, I circled this game as an awesome game before the year, and man, have both teams struggled. Texas Tech has been solid on offense. They're 64th in the nation in rushing yards per game while sitting 23rd in passing yards per game. Oklahoma State's one of the worst defensive units in the nation and has struggled heavily against the run. Still, Texas Tech has seen the under cash in 4 of 10 games this year. This has happened more often on the road and when the other team struggled to score. Oklahoma State's going to struggle to score in this one. The under's hit in 3 of 4 games for Oklahoma State when the total's more than 62 points. The total's over 62. We're going to take the under again. Under 66.5 minus 115 on ProfitX. Moving to UCF and West Virginia. Central Florida struggled since they lost KJ Jefferson. Since the game against Florida, they have just one win. The offense has been better since moving to Risk from Brown to replace Jefferson, but still not the same level. UCF 5-5 against the spread this year. They've just covered twice in the last 7 games. They're also 1-4 when a favorite in the last 7 games. Meanwhile, West Virginia's 4-6 against the spread. They've covered in 2 of the last 3. It's gonna be a tight game. I do like West Virginia, though. Give me West Virginia +3, minus 105 on ESPN. I don't believe I'm doing this, but I'm moving to Wofford in South Carolina. Wofford, 115th out of 123 FCS schools in scoring this year. They're scoring just 16.7 points per game. They will not. They will now face a SEC school that's 13th in the nation in opponents' points per game. South Carolina is scoring 30.6 points per game this year while facing some of the best defenses in the nation. They're going to score with ease in this one. Further, they're 7-3 against the spread this year. They've covered 4 of the last 5. Unless they pull the starters at halftime, give me South Carolina minus 42.5, minus 110 on FanDuel. Finally, I am moving to Army and Notre Dame. I have searched the web, and almost no one is on Army. Army is 7-1-1 against the spread this year. The miss was by a single point against Air Force with their starting quarterback out. Army is 21st in the nation in points per game. They've also 2nd in the nation in opponents' points per game. They are 5th in the nation in opponents' yards per game. Army is not Navy. They will not turn over the ball a ton. Army's 1st in the nation in giveaways. They're 6th in turnover margin. This is not going to be a repeat of Navy Notre Dame. Give me Army plus 14.5, minus 106 on FanDuel. Let's recap. I got UTSA minus 15.5, Indiana plus 11.5, UTEP Tennessee under 54.5, Penn State minus 11, Wisconsin money line, Arizona State minus 3, Cal minus 13.5, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State under 66.5, West Virginia plus 3, South Carolina minus 42.5, and Army plus 14.5. If you like this content, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with your friends. We'll be back on Sunday with our latest Top 25. See you then.